It's 5 a.m. in a really cold morning here in the capital of the Russian Arctic, Murmansk. And today we are going to explore the even more rural areas of the Russian Arctic. And you're coming with me. We find ourselves in one of the northernmost regions of Russia, 200 kilometers above the Arctic Circle. Today's goal is to venture into the depths of the Murmansk Oblast, as our intention is to reach an abandoned Soviet railway station found in the valleys of the legendary Kola Peninsula. According to most urbex literature, this Soviet railway station is a true hidden gem, very difficult to reach due to its remote locations in a region with extremely harsh winters, but offering a sight that is extremely rewarding. This Soviet railway station is found in the mining town of Kirovsk, and since there is no direct train that we can jump on to get to Kirovsk, the railway station is abandoned and not operative after all, we needed to get up really early in the morning to try and get progressively and gradually closer to our destination. So we've made it to one of the most fascinating places that you can find north of the Arctic Circle. You've guessed it, we've made it to the railway station of Murmansk, so far north that the town, or rather city authorities have put this, na sieverie žit, which means, oh, it's so nice to be living so far up north. And behind it you've got a typical Soviet station, like the ones that you find pretty much anywhere in Russia, even in the places that are much more to the south. And at the top there you can see the Red Star, which is not the Red Star of Belgrade, but it's the Soviet Red Star. Let's go and ask for a ticket to the town of Apatity. Здравствуйте. Можно? Скажите, Апатиты это самый близкий город к Кировску, да? Хорошо, тогда я смотрел, я хотел бы 15 нижнее, второй вагон.
Вагон второй, место 15-е.
Хорошо, а куда следует поезд, до Москвы?
Поезд этот идет до Смоленска.
Смоленска?
До Смоленска, это еще дальше, чем
Да,
Москва.
да. Хорошо, спасибо вам большое, до свидания. Here is my ticket to the town of Apatity, the closest railway stop to the town of Kirovsk. If you're curious about the cost, this was about, 1,200 rubles, which is roughly, 11 euros? Not bad, but also not great for a 3-hour ride across the Russian Arctic. And this is the train that will have the honor for me to jump on. A train that will then proceed onwards to Smolensk, all the way to the Belarusian border. How long does it even take to reach Smolensk from Murmansk? 2 days? Извините, какой второй вагон?
Второй здесь, значит, 5-й, 4-й, 3-й. У нас нету...
Посмотрите, пожалуйста.
Куда едем?
Апатите.
Получается хвостом.
Крайний. Хорошо, хорошо, спасибо. Eventually, I was able to find my wagon. О, это второй, да, здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте, документ, пожалуйста, мне нужен документ.
And after blessing the train conductor with the sight of my sexy Italian passport, I was then able to board the train. I ain't no sellout, so there was only one possible class of travel that I could have booked for this trip. The cheapest, of course, the third class out of 3, the one with open compartments.
Благодарим за ваш выбор. Нашим приоритетом в работе является обеспечение вашего комфортного и безопасного путешествия.
The trip was supposed to take 3 hours, and as we had left from Murmansk railway station very early in the day, I laid down for a bit just to try and regain some sleep. And as I did that, I started dreaming about all the things that I was going to find in the remotest depths of the Kola Peninsula, a region of Arctic Russia that is very famous within the country because of its geology. The Kola Peninsula is an area that is very rich in minerals and natural resources. Indeed, the provisional destination on our way to the abandoned railway station of Kirovsk was going to be the town of Apatity, named after one of its most abundant natural resources in the area, apatite, the raw mineral used in the production of phosphorus mineral fertilizers. I slept for a couple of hours, and that was very much needed because I only had slept 3 hours last night before jumping on the train, just because I was so excited. I was so excited to go ever so deep inside the Kola Peninsula, one of the most fascinating and historical Arctic peninsula in the history of fascinating Arctic peninsulas. And we're now not that far from our provisional destination for this train ride, which is Apatity. And we're now crossing a very dense forest because we are in the Arctic indeed, but we're very near the border between the territory of the taiga, the forest of which Russia is very much rich of, and the tundra, which is that type of territory with no vegetation at all due to the frozen ground, due to permafrost. But the tundra you can only find north of Murmansk, whereas now we are proceeding towards the southeast, towards Apatity. Спасибо. До свидания. There you go, a small railway platform or station right here in the Russian Arctic. This is Apatity. See there written on the facade of this very Stalinist building, if I must say. I imagine that the one that we are trying to reach in Kirovsk is not going to be much different from this one, in the sense that it will still be of Stalinist architecture, but obviously it will be completely abandoned and almost inaccessible. I don't really have much plans for here in Apatity, but we do need to find a way to proceed forward to our final destination. So let's maybe get to the center of this town and then we'll see what will happen from there. The best course of action was for me to inquire on how much the fare was going to be to reach the town center of Apatity on one of the gypsy cabs that were standing in front of the railway station. Мы не находимся в центре, да? Правильно?
Поеду, отвезу тебя.
А, потому что это не центр.
Не.
Ну хорошо, поедем. 200 рублей, да? Хорошо, хорошо. And so I trusted the outcome of today's mission into the hands of a fine gentleman from Azerbaijan with golden teeth. If there is one thing that I've learned during my travels in Russia, is that you've always gotta trust random Azeri gypsy cab drivers with golden teeth. А как из Азербайджана вы попали сюда?
Ой, ё-моё, 42 года назад.
40... Вы живете здесь
42 года.
в Апатите именно?
Да, да.
Вы служили, наверное?
Нет, я Дальнего Востока служил.
Во Владивостоке?
Да, да, Владивосток.
Ага.
Приехали полярный день смотреть.
Полярный день?
Да,
ага.
летом.
Да.
Решили полярный день смотреть.
Да.
До сих пор и смотрю.
Хорошо. Наверное, у вас есть площадь Ленина. Есть у вас?
Да, вот это площадь Ленина будет. Вот снимай потихоньку, иди снимай.
Ну хорошо. И памятник Ленину есть
там,
тоже?
там.
Где? Там?
Дальше чуть-чуть, да.
Ну, хорошо.
И здесь лучше, и здесь тоже есть хорошие места. Снимай здесь и потихоньку по этой улице, вот, метров 300, Ленина улица.
Окей, ну посмотрю ту улицу.
брат.
Что еще посмотреть? Хорошо, спасибо вам большое. До свидания. Let this be a lesson for you. You always gotta trust random Azeri taxi drivers with golden teeth when they offer you to take a ride with them towards the city center, when they come to meet you at the railway station of any Arctic town in Russia. Because there is no way, and I mean no way, that I would have ever been able to get to this place at the very center of the town of Apatity, which coincides with the place where a statue of a certain man was erected some 40 or 50 years ago. Obviously, I'm talking about the statue of Vladimir Lenin. And we've seen ever so many Lenins during our time in Russia and the post-Soviet Union. But this Lenin has got something strange about it. It feels like maybe the color is a bit unusual. I'm not used to seeing Lenins in such a tonality of gray. Maybe this Lenin is made out of a strange material. Maybe this Lenin is made out of apatite. If you were ever to set your eyes on living on a mission like this yourself, towards the abandoned railway station of Kirovsk, be careful of where you step your feet, just because these sidewalks, especially here in Apatity, tend to be very slippery, so you gotta be careful. Man, how do babushkas walk on this? Why does no one ever think of the babushkas, man? And speaking of babushkas, look at what we've got. We've got an amazing commie block made out of bricks. And commie blocks that are made out of bricks, we've seen them all over the post-Soviet Union. But commie blocks that are made out of bricks above the Arctic Circle really hit like crack. Especially this one. You've got this mosaic right here with a cosmonaut. And it's also got some 3D element where the helmet is supposed to be. And this is a Russian cosmonaut, because you've got the Russian flag, and you've also got a random alien, a random and very creepy alien saying hello. And what's even more amazing, man, at this rate I'm never gonna be able to reach Kirovsk by sunset, because look at what we've got. We're stopping everywhere here in Apatity because there's so much stuff that is worth stopping by to admire. We've got this relief, which is definitely connected to the mining history of the town. You've got the miners there, you've got trucks, you've got workers at the top, and you've got scientists, you've got geologists, and you don't even have a hammer and sickle, you don't even have communist slogans, you just have Ku, Fe, Z, N, P, B. You can see some letters there, definitely coming from the periodic table, Mendeleev. Again, going back to the geological, if that's even a word, history and theme of the town. It also says here Druzhba, which means friendship, which is very fitting because it's only through friendship that towns like Apatity could be built. Friendship, one of the most important values for the Soviet people. Over there in the distance, you see the mountains of the Oblast of Murmansk. That's one of the northernmost mountain chains of the world, if you think about it. So not only it's gonna be crazy cold because we're miles and miles and miles away from the Italic Peninsula that we all stem from, but it's also gonna be crazy cold because we're gonna be up in the mountains, and that's where we're gonna find the abandoned railway station of Kirovsk. But there's one final thing that I want to do while here in Apatity, which is eat something, because I'm starving. So let's find a place to eat, and I will also call the taxi driver from earlier on, because he was kind enough to give me his phone number, and he said to call him whenever I want to proceed onwards to Kirovsk. Oh, finally I can regain some energy, as if I was Goku on planet Namek with 2 Ks, and this is what I will be taking advantage of in order to regain my energy levels. I've got a cappuccino, I've got a pancake filled with chicken and mushroom, and I've also got mashed potatoes and another small chicken cutlet. And all of this 526 rubles, which is what? Around €5, $6. Алло, здравствуйте, вы таксист, да? Ну, поедем в Кировск. Мы встретили сегодня утром. Не-не-не, мы встречались сегодня утром, итальянец, помните?
I was, without a doubt, undoubtedly very sad to learn that unfortunately the random Azeri gypsy cab driver with golden teeth from the morning was unfortunately busy with other clients. How dare he?
А это, да, до Кировска?
So I resorted to jumping on a marshutka, a minivan that is very commonly used as public transport all over the post-Soviet Union, from Brest all the way to Vladivostok, even here, up in the Arctic latitudes of the Kola Peninsula.
О, спасибо.
What a feeling to be inside an authentic marshutka. A feeling that cannot really be described with words and can only be understood by boarding an actual marshutka. The sensation of feeling almost alien, surrounded by locals speaking a totally different language and with a radically different perspective on life all around you. But I even managed to make friends inside the marshutka to Kirovsk. Imagine.
Хороший ресторан есть, вон прямо на горе.
Хороший ресторан, да?
Да.
Интересно. А вы родом из Кировска, да?
Да.
Северный человек. Вот это
Музей камня очень интересный,
камня.
кстати. Очень интересный.
Ага, хорошо, да.
И тем более, что он бесплатный вход.
Да, окей, хорошо. Ну, потому что в Мурманской области есть очень много камней. Ну, если я знаю, что есть никель, апатиты, города, это все связано, да?
Кировский намного лучше камней.
Eventually, the marshutka reached its destination after around half an hour, and I had made it. I had made it to Kirovsk.
Без сдачи, пожалуйста.
Пожалуйста, сдачу.
Спасибо. До свидания.
The old guy that I had befriended on the marshutka even offered to be my guide for a bit after having heroically landed in Kirovsk. He was very adamant in helping me out towards my final goal for today's video, the abandoned railway station of Kirovsk.
Наверное, у вас была ЖД вокзал, которая заброшена сейчас?
Да, я вам покажу, где он.
А, это, окей, хорошо, интересно. А можно туда зайти, посмотреть или,
Ну,
или как
можно
там?
зайти, ну там одни стены. Ну, здесь он недалеко, буквально пройтись. И он с левой стороны будет его видно.
And that's how I found out that along with the abandoned railway station, there is also one other big main point of interest in town.
Сейчас зайти в музей камня, там
Да.
походить.
Never, and I mean never, could I have ever missed out on the mysterious rock museum of Kirovsk.
Спасибо вам большое,
Пожалуйста.
я очень благодарен.
Пожалуйста.
Спасибо за гостеприимство. Да,
Спасибо.
очень.
Всего
Да,
хорошего,
да,
счастливо, удачи.
Да, до свидания. The Rock Museum, which is maybe the museum where you can find Dwayne Johnson. Imagine finding Dwayne Johnson in the Russian Arctic. Nah, you can't find Dwayne Johnson in the Russian Arctic. This is like the museum where you can resurrect Aerodactyl or maybe Kabuto. You know that museum of research in Pewter City where you've got your first gym leader in Pokemon Red and Blue, where you've got Brock with its Geodude and its Onix. That's what this rock museum reminds me of. Let's go and see what's inside. This is what you call culture, right? This is very sophisticated. You don't see many sophisticated channels on YouTube like this one. Who else on YouTube takes you to the rock, or rather Geology Museum of Kirovsk in the Russian Arctic in the Kola Peninsula? This is like paradise for someone like Hank from Breaking Bad, because you've got all these minerals, half of which I never heard of in my entire life. But this is everything that you can extract from the mines of the mountains around Kirovsk and Apatity. This is amazing. Wow, look at this. For example, apart from the obvious
Apatite, which gives the name to the town nearby. Look at what you've got. You've got stones or other minerals of copper and nickel, which means that, you know those Soviet ruble coins that used to circulate in the post-Soviet Union up until the 1990s? Well, those were made out of nickel, so it was out of these minerals right here, out of these rocks, that they used to make the ruble coins back in the day. Isn't that so fascinating? Dave, the inspiration really is a channel for true intellectuals, right? Who else takes you to random geology museums and exhibits in the most remote depths of the Kola Peninsula in the middle of winter? No one does. They even had an exhibit dedicated to the legendary and mysterious Kola Super Deep Borehole, the deepest human man-made hole on Earth, excavated by Soviet researchers in 1989, which is found actually not far from Kirovsk, near the Arctic border between Russia and Norway. All of that was very interesting, but the main reason that I had come to Kirovsk for was waiting for me. And it was a race against time, because I was trying to get to the abandoned railway station of Kirovsk before sunset. Oh, it took a long time coming from Murmansk, but we're ever so close! It's almost sunset, and I'm glad that it's almost sunset, because, I mean, it's not even 3 o'clock, but obviously it's winter in the Arctic Circle, so what do you expect? But I'm so glad that the sun is now so low near the horizon, because look at the lights and look at the colors that you've got at the feet of the mountains of the Oblast of Murmansk. Look at them again in the distance, the Komi blocks and the snowy peaks of Kirovsk, named after a Soviet and Bolshevik revolutionary. This is what this city and town is named after. Now, where should I go? Здравствуйте, а есть способ спускаться в вокзал?
На вокзал?
Да.
Зимой навряд ли, там сугробы высокие. Это если только вот дальше по дороге идти,
Да.
и вот там отворотка будет налево, и вот дорога идет снизу, вот красным,
да.
и вот туда.
И значит, я буду там очень близко, а потом надо
Да,
только...
если там сугробов нету, то можно в целом пройти.
Хорошо. Вы обычно, если, там будете летом, если что,
Ну,
развлекаться.
туда нежелательно, конечно, ходить.
Ага.
Там уже и потолок, полы...
Безопасно, может быть, да?
Небезопасно, наоборот. Там...
Но если я хочу зато посмотреть близко, тогда
Да, вот здесь вот
надо.
снизу, ниже дорога идет.
Понимаю. Хорошо. Спасибо
Да
вам
не за
большое. До свидания. Well, yes indeed, I can see the electrical wires of what was once the very much operating railway system in and around Kirovsk, which has now been dead for the past, I don't know, 20, 30 years. From the pictures that I saw online, the station definitely looked very old, very Soviet, but it looked like it was the early kind of Soviet, so I wouldn't even be surprised if this station was built maybe in the first half of the 20th century, maybe right before World War II even, with the 5-year plans of Stalin, which definitely did shape the economy and the industry of this part of the Russian Arctic. We're almost there. Worry not, lovers of post-Soviet decadentism, which at these latitudes definitely take another connotation, which is a whole other connotation, which is the one of Arctic post-Soviet decadentism. Wow, it's not normal post-Soviet decadentism anymore. This is something extra. This is the only facade that is somewhat accessible between the two. You've got the facade on the other side, but that's the one that, well, that's actually the main entrance for passengers, whereas this facade is the one that was facing the railway tracks, which are somewhere over there. So people And passengers and Soviet passengers and Soviet Arctic passengers used to get off the station and exit the station through this door right here to go and board their trains to go wherever they needed to go, really, around the Kirovsk district of the Murmansk Oblast. You can see it up there, the Soviet sign in Cyrillic that is still surviving strong, Kirovsk. And that's about the only thing that is surviving strong in this railway station right here. So let's try and enter this railway station, even though entering this railway station just means going through here, and you can see that the roofs have entirely collapsed and there's barely anything. Really, the only thing that I can find, this, by the way, surely used to be the waiting hall for passengers. This used to be the main hall. And then over there you've got a portrait of Vladimir Lenin. Look at that. Which is just about the only thing that is surviving, really. Roofs have collapsed. This station looks like it's been bombed out, but you've still got Vladimir Lenin up there. This is just so funny. And this again is the main entrance, so people used to come through here, and then, yes, that would be the waiting hall, which is usually to the left, at least for Soviet stations and Soviet-built stations, and then on the right, people just under Lenin would be able to buy their tickets in order to get a ride on the Kirovsk suburban trains. Well, what better way to finish off our video than doing it from, once again, the facade of the railway station of Kirovsk. The abandoned Kirovsk railway station is indeed a must-see destination for all urbex lovers of the world. It's true, it's not easy to reach. One gotta get to Russia, and that's not easy, and then you gotta jump on a flight to Murmansk, and then you gotta jump on a 3-hour train ride across lands where not a single soul speaks English, and then you gotta make your way further into the Kola Peninsula to finally reach Kirovsk. But all real explorers know that all of the most fascinating places of the world are the ones that are not easy to reach at all. So I'll see you next time. Cheers! Thank you! Bye! From Kirovsk.